What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. Today we're going over the best endo farming possible in Warframe in this current year 2023. This strategy's been a thing for a while, but yeah, it's still the best thing for nowadays, as we show what you can get. Looking at about 1,000-ish endo per minute, and as you see right here, 2 minute, 37 second, 3,700 endo, so even more than 1,000 per minute sometimes. We'll be going over Steel Path Arena farming and all the builds. I don't want to waste your time today, so we're just going to get right into it. Hopefully you enjoy these types of videos. We do them daily. Okay, so as far as the best endo farm in the game, it's going to be pretty much, decided on one specific type. You're going to want to go on the Steel Path. So if you don't have the Steel Path unlocked, you need to beat a lot of stuff. So this is going to be more of a late game farm. If you don't have the Steel Path unlocked, you can do it on the normal path. It will just be a lot worse. You'll get a lot less endo. And the planet we're going for is Sedna, one of the last planets of the game. That's why the Steel Path can be kind of rough. Because when you start the Steel Path, you start on Earth. And Sedna is way, way over here. But there's kind of a trick. Let's say you just started the Steel Path, and you're like, oh man, I want to get to Sedna for the good stuff that I'm about to talk about. What you can do is you don't need to bother getting to every single node in the game. What you want to do is you want to look on these daily alerts here. You want to find an alert that is on Sedna, and if you find an alert that's on Sedna, make sure you complete that alert, because that will give you it will unlock the specific node on Sedna, like whatever one the alert's for. Then you can start unlocking other nodes on Sedna. The ones we're going for today are going to be called Yam and Vaginoi. These two are they've been endo farm. I've been honestly doing these endo farms for like 3 or 4 years at least. And the builds we're using today are going to involve Helminth, and they're going to involve a mod drop booster. If you don't have a mod drop booster, which only drops from limited places, the Sortie is one of the 2 places it drops from, and the other place it drops from is Katir can sometimes bring it. So make sure you watch my Katir video tomorrow. He might have it finally after all these years. Okay, so basically, get on the Steel Path after beating all the story quests, then go to Sedna. The reason we're on the Steel Path, as you can see, 100% increased mod drop chance. Endo counts as a mod as far as the game's loot system is concerned. And when we go to these nodes right here, Yam and Vaginoi, the enemies here are extremely likely to drop big endo amounts. So we're going to get some gameplay on the screen right now of the meta farm we were doing the other day. And the squad for this, of course, there is some flexibility, but I'm going to recommend to you, as someone that did this for like an hour and got like 120,000 endo, I'm going to recommend to you 2 Necros. Necros normal is fine, but Necros Prime is cooler looking. 1 Nidus. Nidus Prime is fine. And then Khora, or Khora Prime. The reason we're using these specific frames is because we're pretty much going crazy as far as loot multipliers here. Necros WARFRAME, his ability Desecrate will give you has a chance to give you extra loot from dead enemies. And we're using the specific weapon, the Ripkas. Now, if you don't know what the Ripkas are, I wouldn't blame you, because they're not exactly the best weapon stats-wise. But we're not really worrying about the stats. The stats are, serviceable enough. The big thing we want here is Amalgam Ripka's True Steel, which gives us increased crit chance, reload speed for shotguns, but who cares about that? The big thing is the 100% extra gore chance. So if an enemy is affected by a slash proc from the Ripkas and they die, they will be guaranteed dismembered. And the more dead body parts there are, the more likely Necros is to give you more loot. And since we're dismembering so many enemies, we actually kind of want 2 Necros, because Desecrate can only, I think it's 1 corpse every half second. So if we're killing more than 2 enemies per second, 1 Necros might not be fast enough. So that's the big thing here. 2 Necros, I'd say 3 people using the Ripkas just to make sure everything is extra gore chance, and have 1 teammate using the Glaive Prime. The Glaive Prime will be a big chunk of damage, and these guys are armored Grineer, so slash procs are going to be the way to do it. Now, let's get into the builds and all the stuff, because you might notice the Khora Stringodom is pretty small in this footage, and we're also invisible. It's very confusing what's going on the screen. So I'm going to show you every build today that I use for this farm. And as you can see, we completed that in a couple minutes, and we probably got a bunch of steel lessons. As you can see, Logman's the one using the Glaive. He has the big damage numbers. We're getting the Ripkas procs on them. I'm going to show you an alternate strategy that involves no Glaive and can be used with the Ripkas, involving Expedite Suffering. Okay, so let's start with build number 1. Like I said, there's 3 frames for this. You only really need 3 different builds, but you don't really need 2 Necros on the same build I'm about to show you. Alright, so the first build is going to be Quiver Necros. Now, a lot of people would say that you just need range and that's it, but I'm going to tell you right now, Empowered Quiver with at least 100% power strength is going to be extremely helpful. These enemies can drop status procs on you. There's also a flashbang grenade, and in my experience, I have found that the Empowered Quiver Augment Mod status immunity, it makes it where the flashbang does not affect you. Now, there have been some situations where it's like host versus client, where I feel like the flashbang still does work. But whenever I played host, I never got flashbang when I was in my 100% power strength bubble. So we're using Empowered Quiver Augment Mod and the Quiver Helmet ability from Ivara. Now, the reason we do this is because this is how we became invisible in that gameplay footage. Basically, we put down the cloaking bubble, and we camp right in front of that door. It's a very good, convergence point of all the enemies. With that cloaking bubble down, enemies shouldn't be shooting at you. You should be hardly ever dying. It's just, you could just keep spamming Ripkas over and over again. So your idea for this is that you should go in there. I'm using Zeneric Focus School. Zeneric Focus School gives everybody energy regen. It also gives you 1 free ability cast when you spawn in. One of the things about this that makes this kind of hard for some people is that you are not really getting as much energy. That's where the Equilibrium mod energy, Arc and Energize and stuff also is very, very handy as well. So basically, you run in here, you place down the Khora Strangledom with the Pilfering Strangledom loot mod, and you have a low duration, high range Nidus, grabbing all the enemies and pulling them in. The duration is low on Nidus because you don't want to be keeping them for too long. You want to be recasting that larva immediately. So yeah, the Cloaking Bubble is extremely helpful here just to make it so you're not getting shot at. You don't want to die mid-mission because it takes time to go pick up the loot. And most of this stuff is pretty much, I wouldn't say required. Despoil is very nice, where it consumes health instead of energy for the for Desecrate. Molt Reconstruct is definitely not needed at all. You should probably just go for more melee damage. So whatever Arcane Fury, depending what kind of Riven you have for your Ripkas, go for that. Now that's going to be the Necros build. We just want to basically be able to cast our Desecrate and make sure it's hitting everything. You don't really need too much range. The range is more for the Cloaking Bubble radius. Very, very good there. Don't use Noise Arrow or they're just going to stand still, I've noticed too. So our Aura mod is Loot Detector. Since we're getting so much Endo from Yam and Vaginoi, you're going to want to make sure you know where the Endo is. So Loot Detector is extremely helpful. As is Enemy Radar. If we were really min-maxing our Aura mods, I would probably recommend 1 or 2 Loot Radar and 1 or 2 Enemy Radars as well. You don't really need Brief Rest because everyone's in the Cloaking Bubble. You don't really need Combat Discipline or whatever, because you're just going to be spamming melee anyway. I'd say go for things like Steel Charge, Enemy Radar, and Loot Radar. I think Loot Radar is extremely helpful for this, so someone that does a lot. Okay, so that's going to be Vaginoi for the Quiver. Let's see my Vaginoi other build. I actually didn't use this the other day, but let's see. Okay, so we got Dispensary. Now, this build is obviously a little bit wrong. It's got negative 14 capacity, but that's where we can build it from scratch. We can throw in the Enemy Radar mod, and there you go. Easy mode. Probably way overkill on strength right now, and we also have basically no range at all. So maybe take that off a little bit, throw a little bit more range in here. This is the other Necros though. The other Necros has lots of flexibility. Desecrate range of 11 meters. That should be fine, as we're going to be all right next to the corpses anyway. So as I said, Dispensary. This will drop health and energy orbs guaranteed every few seconds. And with the Equilibrium mod, we can pick up those energy orbs as if they're health orbs, giving us good stuff. So that's going to be really nice. Another, melee buffing Arcane here, and then the rest of the stuff is kind of just like stock standard for Necros. Like I just said, you only need 1 Quiver, and the other Necros can run whatever. He can run Roar, he can run... As long as you're using a helmet that doesn't make the enemies run away from you. You want the enemies to come towards you. Anything that makes the enemies run away is bad. Very, very bad, okay? So we showed Necros. Flexibility definitely allowed there on Necros. But let's start with Nidus. I'd say this frame has next to no flexibility on the build, besides specific little duration numbers and maybe the helmet. Now, this is actually going to be a helmet I have never seen anybody else use for this. And it's something that's still experimentation, but we've got Expedite Suffering on Nidus. Now, you don't need Expedite Suffering for what we're doing, but it is a nice little thing to try out. And I'm going to get the Nidus gameplay of this farm session on the screen, too, because I did play Nidus for a couple missions. All right, here we go. So it's very easy to play Nidus for this, guys. You just keep spamming the larva over and over again. The weapon really doesn't matter. Just want to bring that Ripkas, have one teammate with the glaive. And as far as the build for Nidus, like I said, you want low duration. So the reason you want low duration is you use this larva ability, and it only lasts for 2.27 seconds with this build. But that's enough to pull all the enemies in and then start killing them. If you have like really, really low duration, it won't even pull them all the way in. That's why you want to have like around like 30-ish% duration. And then like as much range as you can jam. Nidus will really be spamming abilities, probably more than most other frames. Khora is going to place on her Stringodum. It's going to last for like 30 seconds or something. Nidus is going to be recasting his larva very, very often. And the reason we've got Expedite Suffering on here is because, now here's the thing about the Ripkas. Like I said, if there's a slash proc from the Ripkas on that enemy, they are going to be guaranteed to, drop extra loot, or not guaranteed, drop extra, guaranteed to be dismembered. So once those Ripkas slash procs are the enemies, I just use Expedite Suffering, and it blows them up. It doesn't always blow them up. It has a weird hitbox. I think it's like a cone AoE. But yeah, this is kind of like what you're supposed to be doing right here as Nidus. Just keep placing down the larva. When it goes away, cast it again. Goes away, cast it again. So Expedite Suffering is going to be an interesting option here. Like I said, you don't need to use it. But we're using slash procs. We're using the glaive proc. We're using the Ripkas. They're going to have lots of slash procs on them. This instantly detonates a slash proc, and it will help you kill Steel Path Grenadier very quickly. So yeah, pretty standard here. We got Equilibrium. If you are going the Equilibrium strat where you have someone in dispensary, you can run this and it will be quite easy. Alright, that is going to be it for Nidus. He doesn't really have, like I said, you could do other helmets if you want to, but that's what I've been finding to be most interesting and fun. You could also go Roar, but he has no duration, so why bother? The last frame is going to be Khora. Again, Khora, I'd say have one person in your team with the glaive, but if you have like really good Ripkas Rivens or whatever, sure, go for it. Just run whatever you feel, just have everyone go Ripkas, I guess. But as far as Khora, let's see if I have the Endo builds up here. Okay, I do. So here's the thing about Khora. Unlike Nidus, where he wants to have really high range and low duration, it's the exact opposite. You want to have really low range but high duration on Khora, because you don't want the enemies to get stuck to the walls by your Strangledome. Additionally, let me get some Khora gameplay on the screen too, I guess. Did I play Khora? I did. Actually, that's more me playing Nidus some more. But basically, doesn't look like I have the Khora gameplay here. It's very, very straightforward. Place down the Strangledome and just start hitting anything with Ripkas. You can, if you're using Dispensary like we are right here, place down the Strangledome, which should be a free cast from Zeneric. Place down Dispensary and you're in business. Just start spamming Ripkas attacks. And you're gonna place the Strangledome in the same spot that we are basically camping in. And it's seriously been a strat for years, so nothing new here. Just not a lot of people know about this. Now, like I said, if you go on the normal path, you will get less endo. But if you're on the steel path, they're going to be a lot tankier enemies. So only do this if you know you have a very good organized team. Like I said, if you don't have a mod drop booster, bring it up with DE, because there is not really any way to get a mod drop booster in this game besides the Swordy and from Borrow. And Borrow hardly ever has it. He hasn't had one since, I think, like October of last year, just to put it in perspective. So, yep, let me know if you guys have any more questions about this. By the way, so just rattling off a quick couple things here. Sentinel, vacuum doesn't work here. There's no innate vacuum. That's why Loot Radar is extremely helpful. You want to make sure enemies don't die very far away. Look at this. These enemies are really far away. That's bad. But I think someone used Noise Arrow there and broke their AI. You can also use the Magus Anomaly Arcane for the Operator to drag enemies from across the room into the Strangledome as well. The Pilfering Strangledome Augment mod for Khora is why we're using Khora for this. Just because, it gives you... We're trying to get as much loot and endo as possible here. And this gives you 65% increased chance for extra loot. This is not a Whipclaw Khora. As far as a glaive build, I do recommend that if you have a glaive, go with a glaive Riven with initial combo, crit damage, whatever. But an initial combo build, this build can one-shot level 10,000s. So just take this prime pressure point and throw on Bane of the Grenadier. If you don't have a Riven, just put prime pressure point in that slot, and there you go. Very, very straightforward. And very, very good. Just make sure you're using the heavy attack button to detonate this. And you will do some serious damage. Those big slash procs will get detonated by Expedite Suffering. But just make sure that the Ripkas guys are cutting them up before you throw that glaive at them. You might be killing stuff too fast and not getting that extra dismemberment chance off. So you guys, hope you found this video fun and helpful. I'll see you on stream tonight. And surprise announcement, I will be doing the Day 1 Destiny raid tomorrow with some other content creators. So we're doing it with Nightmare Frame, who does... Warframe content. We're doing it with Moxie, who does Borderlands content and some other content creators too that I'm about to check out. So, yep, make sure you stop at the stream tonight, and tomorrow I'll be doing some raid prep tonight. Also some Warframe farming, and then I'm also going to be doing some Apex Legends this weekend too. So, should be an interesting week for streaming going forward. Alright guys, have fun farming the Endo, and I'll see you next time. Peace!